chief of Russia's Wagner mercenary group, is presumed dead following a plane crash. Yevgeny Prigozhin was listed as one of 10 passengers on a private business jet which crashed en route to St. Petersburg from Moscow. In June, Prigozhin led a short-lived rebellion against Russia's military. The failed coup ended when Prigozhin struck a deal with Russian President Putin, agreeing to leave to Belarus in exchange for amnesty and never coming back to Russia.
With more, we are joined by global security expert and retired Marine intelligence officer Hal Kempfert. Hal, it's been a while. Thanks for being with us tonight on such a really fascinating story that's unfolding. So he is presumed dead. What do we know about the plane crash itself and the investigation?
Marla, what we know is it was on a flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg. There is some discussion as to was that the flight he was supposed to be on. But when it took off from Moscow airport, it went up to 28,000 feet, more or less. Well above, I should mention, the ability to shoot it down with a shoulder-fired missile. And then it just suddenly dropped out of the sky. And you see the video. Obviously, the pilot had no control. It was something catastrophic. There's been speculation it could have been an air defense missile. It could have been a device, an explosive device on board the aircraft. It doesn't look like it was a mechanical failure, although that's always a possibility. But it took out not just Prigozhin, but it also took out the top staff of the Wagner Group. It was essentially for Wagner, for the Wagner Group, that organization, it was a decapitation, if you will.
So based off of your experience in the intelligence world, what percentage would you give it that this was potentially an accident?
Alex, I put that pretty darn low, okay? Statistically, the chance that now that he would have an aircraft accident over Russia, infinitesimally small. In fact, in the right after the attempted mutiny, the attempted coup, if you will, there was a lot of speculation that this would be right about the time that something would happen to him, some horrible accident, and it's right on cue. And by the way, it's the day after General Surovkin, who was very close to Prigozhin, was formally fired, if you will, from being the head of the aerospace forces. Although I don't think he'd actually been in control of them for a while. But he was also seen as an associate with this attempted coup.
Is there an independent agency that will investigate this? At the time that the news broke, I understand that Putin was giving remarks, talking about some victories regarding the war in Ukraine. What do we know about that element?
Well, he was basically making remarks, and everybody's reading into it because his remarks seem to be, they're trying to see if there's any sort of prescient thing as if he knew what was going on. And there's some speculation that maybe he was signaling that he knew this was going to happen. It's not quite clear. But one thing is very clear, that the Russians are going to control this investigation. I don't anticipate any outside entities, any international entities having a chance to look at the crash site, identify the bodies, anything like that. And by the way, there is wide speculation that Prigozhin may not have been on the plane. There's talk of a second plane that Prigozhin could have been on. There's talk that he was supposed to be flying to Africa, not to St. Petersburg. And in 2019, he was on a manifest for a plane that went down in the Congo, and then he turned up alive afterwards. So there's a lot of thoughts that maybe this is orchestrated. We don't know, but as of right now, we're assuming that he was on that plane.
We know in the past that bad things have happened to people that oppose Vladimir Putin in Russia, especially in very public ways. What does this particular incident tell us about Vladimir Putin, his grip on power, and what he will do to keep it?
Well, what I'd say is there's a certain gravity to the situation, and there seems to be a problem with people who oppose Putin and gravity, where they fall out of a window, fall off a balcony. In this case, they fell out of the sky. It's very clear, and Putin doesn't hide this. It's very pretty much overt, although he won't formally admit it, that if you oppose Putin, something very bad and potentially very kinetic will happen to you. And there's just been a slew of people who have said things about Putin that were not particularly complimentary or may have been seen as a slight, that then end up falling out of the sky, whether from a building or whatever. This, of course, one of the biggest things we've ever seen, where a plane literally falls out of the sky with the whole Wagner executive group inside.
Wow. Okay. It is something else. Global security expert Hal Kempfert, thank you so much.
No, thank you.